Go inside the Crimson Tide with your hosts Rodney Orr and Gary Harris, keeping you informed on everything Alabama. And now, Tider Insider TV.
Well, the wait is almost over. Football is in the air, and it begins in Tuscaloosa for Alabama on Thursday. The Crimson Tide will hit the practice field for the first time that afternoon at 2:30. I'm sure I'm not the only one to say it, but welcome back college football, particularly Alabama football. We certainly have missed you. And with that, we say good evening, everybody. Welcome into another edition of Tider Insider TV, brought to you each and every week by Buffalo Rock Bottling Company. Alongside Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com, I'm Gary Harris. Tonight, Rod, you know what? You were telling me you have not been feeling well, and I have had a couple of long days. I love that sound. So we're going all out. Pepsi Max. 0 calories, max flavor. Guaranteed to pick you up. Try some Pepsi Max or even Pepsi Max cherry flavor next time you're at your local grocer. And boy, that tasted good. I needed that. I'm with you. But we tell you what, we're gonna have to get it in gear now, Rod, because football season is right around the corner. And you know, Nick Saban will speak tomorrow at his Knicks Kids Luncheon, but he finished up his round of regular speaking engagements with alumni last week in Pensacola. He was speaking to the Bama group down there, and of course he was asked again about the new book, the unauthorized biography, Saban, about his life and coaching career. And one of the topics that was brought up was his reported flirtation with the Texas job. And he clarified again, you know, he didn't talk too much about what might or might not have happened, but he clarified that he's very, very happy at Alabama.
I don't really think much about the past. I don't worry a whole lot about the future. So I can't say how gratifying it is because I'm worried about what's next. And I think that's probably one of the keys to being successful is, you know, to keep thinking about what can I do right now, because what's next is most important. So the challenge that you have in front of you with the players that we have now, the team that we have now, that's the fun of it. That's what I enjoy the most. Now, I'm very, very proud of all the players who have contributed and the coaches who have contributed to the success that we've had to this point, the hard work that they've done. Our fans have been wonderful. It would be hard to find a better place to coach than it has been at the University of Alabama for, you know, my career there. And I think one of these days I'm going to have a lot of gratification for all that.
So maybe, Rodney, just maybe, the rumors will come to an end. I mean, he will turn 64 in October. He's going into his 9th year. Before we move on to the polls, the preseason coaches poll, you think he's going to close it out right here at Alabama? This is his final coaching job?
Yeah, I thought so even during the Texas stuff, so I'm convinced of that.
I did too. Well, we know it's getting close to the start of the fall when polls start coming out. The Amway Coaches Poll, the preseason edition, was released last week. Ohio State, an overwhelming choice as the top team in America. They got all the first place votes except for 2. Alabama got one of those first place votes. The Tide comes in at 3rd. The only other team to get a first place vote other than Alabama and Ohio State was TCU. They're ranked 2nd in the poll. So let's take a look at the top 5. Baylor and Oregon follow as the 5 best teams that going into the season would have the best chance to get into the playoff. 4 of them will make it. Rest of the top 10, Michigan State, Auburn, the pick by many to win the SEC, comes in at number 7. And here's where some other SEC foes are ranked. Georgia's at 9, Ole Miss at 15. Alabama's opponent in game number 1, Wisconsin's at 18. Arkansas, Missouri, and Tennessee from the SEC. 8 of the top 25, according to the coaches, from the Southeastern Conference. So it's hard to say that the SEC is going down when you have 8 of the top 25 preseason. Well, the athletic department also released information about the annual Fan Day, also known as the Running of the Fans. Remember last year, Rodney, we were standing up high watching them out there. It's a lot of fun. It's going to take place this Sunday, August the 9th. Gates open at Bryant-Denny at 1:30. Once again, this year, fans will be allowed on the field at the conclusion of an open practice to get autographs. Now here's the schedule. Gates open at 1:30. The open practice begins at 2:30. It'll run about 2 hours. At approximately 4:45, fans will be allowed on the field for autographs for players and coaches, and it is always a lot of fun, and the fans take advantage. I'm sure we'll have another big crowd, people even camping out on Saturday night to be in line first for Sunday. Well, it was a productive week for Nick Saban on the recruiting trail, Rodney, as we talked about a little bit last week. 2 commitments came in this past week. One of them we did allude to during Tider Insider last Tuesday, at least, that we thought that it would happen. It did later that night. Tell us, though, more about Sean Jennings from out of Dadeville, and he's got a brother that signed with Alabama, Anthony Jennings, this past February. What's this young man bring to the table for the Crimson Tide in the future?
Yeah, I think when you look at him, Gary has outstanding size. I think he's got a lot of versatility. He's a guy who could be a safety, could grow into an outside linebacker. And I talked to one of the assistant coaches, former Alabama player Matt Harrison, who is there at Dadeville now, and he told me, he said, I really think this guy could even possibly grow into one of those smaller inside linebackers that they use in some of their packages. So, Sean Jennings is a really physical player, Gary. He's an outstanding athlete. And again, he has outstanding size at about 6'1", 217 pounds.
So it sounds like what you're telling me is versatility.
Versatility. And that's what Nick Saban's been very successful at in terms of, his recruiting here at Alabama. He's recruited a lot of versatile players that can plug in a lot of different spots.
All right, here are the numbers on Jennings. A big, tall, prototypical type safety, although as you heard Rodney say, could potentially grow into a linebacker. Shows Alabama over Auburn and Memphis. Not to be outdone, the class of 2017 picked up its 5th commitment as well last week, and we got another one today, but let's start with last week. And Chadarius Townsend plays for former Alabama player LaRon White. This is a young man at Tanner High School, and he's got a couple more years of high school football. You watch him play quarterback, and you see the athleticism is unbelievable. But another guy that has versatility, probably won't play quarterback in college, but can do a lot of other things for you.
Yeah, you remember Deshae Townsend?
Very well.
Yeah, they're not related, but at least that we know of. But kind of that similar type talent, a guy that's a high school quarterback, very athletic. He's just a sophomore in this video you're watching here. He was not even supposed to play quarterback. The starting quarterback went down, they plugged him in, and he just kind of took off and had a great season. Gary, I think he counted for close to 3,000 yards and, numerous touchdowns. And there you see his speed. He came to Alabama, worked in the camp, was outstanding as a safety. He could play safety. He could play cornerback. He could even play slot receiver. So, again, we're talking about a guy who's extremely talented. Now, LaRon White, who's seen a lot of really good players, told me he reminds him a lot of Ardarius Stewart, who is the current Alabama sophomore receiver who was so outstanding at Fultondale as a versatile player like Chadarius.
Here's the stats on Chadarius Townsend. Tanner is a powerhouse high school. You see there, good size. Had a lot of other offers, but it mainly came down to Alabama, Auburn, and Kentucky, so the Tide happy to get him. And Rodney, we've got some breaking news on recruiting right before I went on the air in sports, and BJ's done a great job of getting us a graphic already. Now, we know how Alabama wants running backs every year. For 2017, and there's a lot of time left, and it's hard to get guys out of Mississippi, but Cam Akers is looked at as the #1 player in that state for 2017.
Yeah, and how difficult has it been for Alabama to recruit that state and to get a commitment from Cam Akers, a guy who is so highly regarded there for next year? That's a big blow for Alabama. And I think when you look at him, Gary, he fits that real mold that we're starting to see Alabama rack up the running backs. They've got Najee Harris, who's considered the #1 running back in the country out of California for 2017. Cam Akers right there with him as one of the top backs. B.J. Emmons, who committed for the 2016 class, is a 230-pounder with tremendous speed. So Alabama loading up on those kind of backs that we've seen, the Ingrams, the Richardsons, the Eddie Lacy's, Yeldons, those types of backs. I think these guys, I'm not comparing them to them, but I think coming out of high school, they're very comparable.
More evidence that Alabama is going to continue to run the football, regardless of who the offensive coordinator is. Well, still more to come on TITV, including thoughts from Reese Davis on the Tide's chances at the college football playoff. And up next, we'll continue our position-by-position breakdown of the Tide as we prepare for fall practice. This week, we're talking linebackers. They got some talented ones. And we'll also be getting to your phone calls, emails, and tweets. As always, the information is there on your screen on how you can get in touch with us. You can reach us at 205-348-WVUA. That's 348-9882. Email us if you'd like, or you can reach us on Twitter using the hashtag TiderInsiderTV. We'll be right back after this. Well, this guy knows a thing or two about the Alabama-Auburn rivalry. ESPN's Reese Davis was speaking at an event in Montgomery last week. Davis about to begin his first year on the anchor desk for ESPN's highly popular College Game Day. He weighed in on Alabama and Auburn's chances at making the college football playoff this season.
I think Auburn's got a lot to prove on defense. I don't know that I'm completely on board with Will Muschamp being able to wave a magic wand and fix everything. Now, maybe he can. I mean, he's a brilliant defensive coach, but there's a lot to do there. Same token, Alabama's got the very same situation at quarterback. I mean, Lane Kiffin did wave a magic wand last year, and Blake Sims played great. Can he do it again? And to me, those are the big question marks. If those are answered in a positive fashion, then I think both of them are contenders to be in the college football playoff.
And Rodney, Alabama, had an explosive offense last year, but the defense slipped just a little bit. That defense is going to need to step up this season if Bama's going to get back in the college football playoff. We continue our position analysis tonight with one of the most important positions on the defense, the position of linebacker. That's what we're going to be breaking down. Let's start with the inside linebackers. And, of course, you got Reggie Ragland coming back. He's going to be a leader on the football team, both in ability and in terms of just what he brings to the team in terms of leadership skills. But, is this the year that Reuben Foster breaks out and is a nice compliment to Reggie Ragland?
I think that's the question, Gary, and I think he had a tremendous spring. There's a lot of promise there with Reuben Foster in terms of taking it to the next level. I think Reuben does have an outstanding year. I think he's ready and he's primed to become that Reuben Foster that everyone expected coming out of Auburn High School.
Where's the depth going to? Where are they going to find the depth at inside linebacker?
That's a really good question, Gary, because they are shy of depth, and I think that's one area they're trying to address in recruiting this year. But I think Keith Holcomb is a young freshman, redshirt freshman from Tuscaloosa. Sean Dion Hamilton's a guy that was a freshman last year, be a sophomore this year, who I think's got a chance to be really good inside. Those are a couple of inside backers. And then I know we're going to talk about the outside backers, where I think there's a lot of young talent there as well.
That's what I was going to say. Outside linebacking, there are a lot of numbers. Now, there's some guys that are looking to step up and prove themselves, but you got a guy like Denzel Duvall coming back who's been around, but they've got a lot of numbers at that position.
Well, Denzel Duvall certainly, with the injury last year, I think he's ready to come back and have an outstanding senior year. A lot of people want to know about Rashawn Evans, the outstanding recruit that was a freshman last year, that such high expectations. I think, Gary, this year we're going to see more of Rashawn Evans as a pass rusher. Also, I think he's going to get opportunities to play, actually play at some of the linebacker spots. And also Tim Williams, who is a tremendous pass rusher from the outside spot. I think he's primed to have a really good year.
And they could stand Deshaun Hand up some if they choose to do so, especially in pass rush situations. So they've got some young talent at linebacker, but really Reggie Ragland right now goes into the season as the only all-star caliber player at that position. Of course, that could change. All right, still more to come on this edition of Tider Insider TV, including a new opponent for the 2018 schedule. And it's a familiar face across the opposing sideline. And up next, we'll be welcoming your phone calls, emails, and tweets. Again, there's the number on the screen on how you can call us, plus the email and the Twitter address as well. So go ahead and give us a call. We'll be talking to you when we come back right after this. Well, Nick Saban will have a familiar face staring back at him across the opposing sideline in the 2018 opener. Reports are that the Tide will open against Louisville and head coach Bobby Petrino in Orlando. Alabama last played Louisville in the 1991 Fiesta Bowl. Didn't work out too well following Gene Stallings' first season. 34-7, Howard Schnellenberger and the Cards took it to Stallings and the Tide. All right, Rodney, it's time to head to the phone lines. They're lined up for us, so let's get right to it. First up tonight is our good friend Joseph in Tuscaloosa. Joseph, what's up, partner?
Hey, what's up, homies? Yeah, what's up? Let me get y'all, give me some clarity on who y'all think was the better quarterback between Joe Namath from the 64 team or Steve Sloan from the 65 team. Well, what's your take?
Well, I'll start. Let me say this. They were both outstanding college quarterbacks. I think physical ability-wise, Joe Namath was better, not just because he went on to play in the NFL. I just think he was more physically gifted than Steve Sloan. Having said that, Steve Sloan was an excellent college quarterback. Both of them were winners. Both of them led Alabama to some great seasons. Yeah. So that's the way I look at it. I think from a physical standpoint, Namath was clearly more gifted. That's why he had a Hall of Fame NFL career, and Steve Sloan, had a little cup of coffee, but made his name mainly as a college coach and administrator.
Absolutely. I don't think there's any doubt about that, Gary. But they were both extremely effective here, Joseph, as quarterbacks. And which game was it? Was it against Nebraska, one of those games when Sloan had to start the game unexpectedly and led Alabama to a win that produced a national championship? So he was an outstanding player.
And, of course, later came back to be the athletics director here at Alabama. All right, let's go to Coleman and talk with Johnny. Johnny, what's on your mind tonight, pal?
Hello, Rodney and Gary. How y'all doing?
Very well, Johnny.
Well, here's what I think, don't you? And see y'all's opinion. Don't Coker, wouldn't it be better if he won the job outright this year, and that way we could have a Barnett and Cornwell battle for next year?
Well, Rod, Johnny, that's a good point. And I think that's probably what most Alabama fans are hoping for because he had so much experience backing up Jameis Winston. He backed up Blake Sims a year ago. He's played more than any of the quarterbacks on the roster. So if he earns it, yeah. Having said that, they're going to play the best guy. So if Cornwell or somebody else beats him out, that's who will be the quarterback. If Coker takes that first snap, I'll feel good about it because that means that he won the job.
Yeah, Johnny, I think he's got all the physical tools in the world to be an outstanding quarterback. I think the one thing that he has to do in fall camp is he has to prove that they can trust him with the football, make good decisions, not put the offense in bad situations. If he can do that and eliminate mistakes and run the offense efficiently, then I think Jacob Coker's the guy. If he's inconsistent, does not make good decisions, then I think they start looking possibly at Cornwell or maybe Alec Morris.
Johnny didn't say this, but I heard it from other fans that say, hey, they need to play Coker because then that doesn't scare off Barnett or other quarterbacks that they're recruiting. That's not the way they look at it. They're going to worry about 2015 before they worry about 2016. They're going to play the best guy. So if Cornwell or somebody else wins the job, that's who they're going to put out there, and they'll worry about recruiting and the other quarterbacks next season.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is the season that counts. It's right here, and you have to win what's in front of you. And I think when you look at that from that perspective, certainly I think if Jacob Coker does not take the job and win it, does not give the team the best opportunity to win, you have to play the guy who does.
All right, let's go to Trussville and talk with Corey. Hey, Corey, what's going on? Corey, you with us? Going once, going twice, 3 times? All right, you want to know about the black jersey, and I've been asked about that a lot. And I've upset a couple of people, Rodney, and you may not agree with me, because I would have told you 10 years ago, yeah, Alabama will never wear a black jersey. And I still think odds are that they won't. But let me say this. If for some reason in the recruiting game, a top-notch recruit brings it up to Nick Saban that he doesn't want to play at Alabama because they don't wear an alternate jersey, and he thinks that's cool, I think anything is open in terms of how it affects recruiting. And I'm not saying that would happen, Rodney, but if it did, I think Nick Saban's open to doing what it takes to have the best, get the best recruits in here. And I think, I'm not saying that's going to happen, so please don't write me. But it wouldn't be out of the question at some point.
Well, I'm very traditional.
I know, and I am too.
Certainly I don't believe in uniform change, but I say this. I don't see anything wrong if they decided to wear one of those black jerseys that were going about on the internet yesterday, for one game. I really don't see what the issue is. And again, I wouldn't say do it for a key game, maybe in Auburn or Tennessee or hosting it at home, whatever. Maybe one of your lesser games, so to speak. I don't see anything wrong with it.
Well, at one time they wore white helmets under Coach Bryant. Then in 1984 under Perkins, they never worn white shoes until 1980. They wore them through 1987. So there have been some tweaks. But, I just think that if Nick Saban thinks it's going to help Alabama, he would do it. But I'm certainly not predicting that will be the case. All right, we'll be back with more Tighter Insider on the other side of the break, including Blake Sims getting another shot north of the border, and more of your phone calls, emails, and tweets. You see the information on the screen. Interact with TITV right now. So go ahead and give us a call. We want to talk to you. We'll be back after this. Blake Sims' opportunity with the Toronto Argonauts earlier this summer didn't work out, but he's getting another shot north of the border. He recently signed with the Saskatchewan Roughriders. The team lost a couple of quarterbacks after a rough 0-5 start, so maybe Blake can go up there and, help turn him around. I still think he can play football at the professional level. Maybe not the NFL, but certainly in Canada. I'd love to see him carve out a nice career there north of the border. All right, it's time to head back to the phone lines, Rod. Let's talk with Robert in Millport. Hey, Robert, welcome into the program.
Hey, Rodney and Gary.
Hey,
Can't
buddy.
wait to get the season started.
I hear you.
I was just asking about Damian Harris. I'm looking forward to seeing him this year. Hope he'll fit in somewhere. I'll get off the phone and listen to you talk about it.
Yes, sir, Robert. I think he's the real deal, and I think you will see him on the field this year. In fact, Rodney, it wouldn't shock me one bit if he's that number 3 running back behind Henry and Drake.
Yeah, I think so, especially when you're talking about the injuries to both Scarborough and I think that with the durability, Kenyon Drake was injured last year, coming off a major injury, and I think when you look at, Derrick Henry's been injured in the past, his first spring here, so I think Damian Harris certainly has an opportunity to contribute significantly this year in a role. And, Gary, one thing I've heard about him is he's been impressive early on in some of these drills that they're taking part in, some of the testing that they've done. He's been everything that they thought he would be coming out of Kentucky.
All right. Thank you, Robert. Let's go to Birmingham and talk to Reg. Hey, Reg, what's going on?
Hey, Gary. Gary, let me ask Rodney a question.
Sure.
He next to the recruiting pretty close.
Yes, sir.
Rodney, how long is it going to take Alabama to get their defensive backs where they can break up these passes and interception passes. We hadn't had a good DB since some Siri left.
Well, I think that this year they're going to be improved. I really do. I think when you look at the young corners, along with Bradley Sylvie and Cyrus Jones, and by the way, I thought Cyrus Jones did an outstanding job last year. He's one of the most, maybe the most improved player on the team. I think Bradley Sylvie had some really bright moments after that rough start against West Virginia. I think when you look at Tony Brown and Marlon Humphrey, those are two promising young guys. We've talked about Minka Fitzpatrick and Kendall Sheffield, two guys as freshmen this year that I think can be outstanding players. I think when you look at the safeties, a future star is Ronnie Harrison. I think that the big move is Eddie Jackson. I think it's really going to help him to move to safety. Geno Smith has been around a while, so I think all of those guys are primed to really do well. And Maury Smith, I want to mention him. I certainly don't want to leave him out. I think he's going to be a key figure at the star spot.
You know, I'm with you, and I'll say this. I'm right there with the caller. I think they got to play better. Yeah. They need to play better back there.
And I think they know that, and I think they're highly motivated by the way things went last year.
All right. Thanks for all the phone calls. When we come back, we're going to hear from Crimson Tide, former Crimson Tide safety Robert Lester, as he tells us what he's looking to do and what the Tide will do in 2015. We'll hear from Robert and check in on Carolina Panthers training camp when we come back. Stay with us. Two former Crimson Tide safeties are competing in the secondary for the Carolina Panthers this fall. Roman Harper is heading into his 11th NFL season, while Robert Lester is just going into his 3rd year. Both are working up there in Spartanburg, South Carolina at Panthers camp, getting ready for the season. Lester is all business, but he has his eyes on this year's team in Tuscaloosa, too.
You know, I want them to go all the way, that's of course, but, you know, it's a great team. You know, Coach Saban's definitely going to push them. They got great leaders. And I'm expecting the best of them from them. So I'm definitely looking forward for them being in the SEC championship and hopefully the national championship.
You know, that's one thing, and it's always been that way, but really since Coach Saban has been here, these former players are invested in the program.
Yeah, used to be that way under Coach Bryant.
Yeah,
we lost that for a while.
Buddy's Rib and Steak, we're coming to see you tonight. Join us. For Rodney, I'm Gary. Thanks for watching. Good night.